Hi everyone, this is Brett Simon. Thought I'd jump on and just answer some questions. I think about someone who enjoys the phrase "jumping on," me jumping on. Anyway, I appreciate it's quite late at night in much of the world. Probably too late for most of you to join me. But if there are any people with questions, I'd be more than happy to take some questions from you and talk about what's going on. First topic, as usual, DV 2020 and DV 2021. There's no news on the appeal yet. I was on vacation last week. I was hoping something would happen, but there's nothing happened on that front. So we have no idea how things are going to work out on that. We're just waiting for the appeal. Then, of course, DV 2025 entry period has opened. I created a video about that in order to help you answer the questions that are in the entry form, and also how to create a photo that would meet the requirements, because the photo is probably the largest single mistake that people make that causes their entry to be kicked out. I actually did, I was asked by someone the other day to prove or to give some statistics on how many cases were kicked out, because I had said something just in passing about 70% of African entries were kicked out during the process prior to the release of the results. And so a gentleman asked me to prove where I got those numbers from. And essentially, the proof is this. We can take let me show you actually. I'll show you this so that you can sort of understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. Entire screen, this one, yeah. Okay, so I've shown this before, but I'll just go through it again a little bit more. So firstly, I took each of the regions and I took DV 2023 selectees and compared that with DV 2024 selectees. I was interested in the percentage increase between each of the regions. And so for Africa, for example, there's been a 12% increase in the number of selectees for DV 2024 over DV 2023. Okay. Then I took highest case numbers from DV 2023, but that's not really important. I also counted the number of cases from DV 2023, and that gave me a derivative rate, that gave me the number of cases and the highest case number together gives me a derivative rate, right? And that also allows me to establish if there are 63,500 cases, case numbers, and only 29,335 are actual cases, then there is a real case density of 46.2% in DV 2023. Hopefully you're sort of understanding how I'm coming to that number. So I used the starting derivative rate in order to project how many cases we would have in DV 2024, right? So for Africa, I came up with this number of 32,865. This is an approximation. It's not going to be precise, but it'll be in the right ballpark. The derivative rate will be somewhat different from year to year, just a little bit different, and it is different from region to region. So I use the derivative rate that is most accurate for the region, and so that gives me the number of cases that I think there will be, right? And once we know the highest case number, which I think to be about 122,000, could be a bit more, then we can say, okay, well, if there's only 32,865 cases in the 122,000 cases we know about, then that means there's a density projection of 27% across the board, right? Meaning that 73% of cases were rejected before the results were even announced. And that's how I describe case density and so on. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I hope it does. It's kind of helpful if you can understand that. But I just wanted to sort of go through that so that people understood where I was coming from. Actually, let me just show you back in that page. Let me add that back. I did the same thing, of course, to each of the other regions. And I've got a case density projection of 27% on Africa and Asia. EU, I projected about 33%, and OC about 42%, and South America about 54%. Now, those are all based on the numbers we know about at the moment as being the highest case numbers in each region. It could obviously, these numbers could change. If these case numbers we hear are underreported, then the density will change a little bit, let's say. Now, the other important thing I just want to make clear is that the first three regions, that's Africa, Asia, and Europe, have more case density in the early number ranges than later, right? If you look at a chart, it's sort of, and I'm going to reverse this for the camera, but it sort of starts, let's say every 1,000 cases would start high and then go down over time of the number of actual cases per 1,000, let's say. There's a reason for that I've explained before, but I think it's important for you to understand that apart from South America and Oceania, the case number is not going to be the same, or the case density rather, is not going to be the same throughout the whole range. There will be less cases per 1,000 in later number ranges, and that's why, as I've explained, and one of the YouTubers copied absolutely completely my explanation. As I've explained the other day, that's why we often will see faster progress of the visa bulletin later on, because the case density starts to decrease. So they have to actually move the needle. They have to move the numbers a bit faster in order to sort of meet the numbers they need for each month. Okay, so that explained. Hopefully that's been clear. I'm sorry about my 2-day beard here, but we'll see. Anyway, right, let me answer some questions for you. Let's see. Glad to have you back in action. Yes, I was on vacation last week. I had a very nice time in Mexico. So yeah. I'm a Brit in my 50s and wonder if the high school diploma equivalent for the UK. Okay, Slack. You use Slack, I'd imagine. I'm a Brit too, obviously. I went through the education system probably about the same time as you. I think things may have changed just after me, maybe before you, I don't know. But when I went to school, at 16, you would go through GCSE O levels, and there's some countries that still have the same system. So up to 16, you do O levels in the UK. And then there would be 2 years of A levels, and you needed to get a certain amount of points or a certain amount of passes from your A levels in order to go on to university. So the equivalent level and that took until about 18 years old. When we look at the United States system and the requirements for this lottery, they talk about high school graduation. And what they really mean by that is not to do with what high school means in the UK or some other countries. And I think this confuses people, and it actually causes some people to get refused where they don't need to, where they shouldn't even have proceeded. But essentially what it means is that when I completed high school at 16, that was not enough of a qualification to meet this requirement on education. I would then have needed, if I was trying to qualify on this, I would have needed to show my A-level results, because it's the A-level results that get me into university. And in the same way that an American kid, when they graduate from what they call high school, which is at 18, they are then able to immediately enter a United States college, which is university in UK and other countries. So they're an 18-year-old that has completed all the education they need, and they can immediately go into a university, which is called college, right? So the point being that for a British person educated in the same system as I was educated in, or some other countries today, you need both O levels and A levels in order to meet the requirement. And for every country, really, the requirement should be, and this varies by some country. There's some countries that don't entirely follow this sort of standard, but they should be around about an 18-year-old. 17 to 18 is the sort of the age, and it's the point at which you can enter a proper university without any extra sort of make-up exams or any other courses in order to get into the university. For example, in America, there's a thing called a GED, and that does not, taking the GED, which is like an exam to say are you qualified to go to college, that would not qualify you for this program. Okay, so that's the education part of it. If you can't qualify on education, then you may be able to qualify on the work experience. Work experience and education, they're two alternative methods to meet the requirement. You only need to meet the requirement on one or the other. Education is normally simpler because it's a little bit more black and white. It's clearer. You either do meet the education standard or you don't. But it varies by country. So anyway, it's like, I hope that sort of covers your question. But do ask, even though it's pretty late there in the UK right now, but do ask if that's not clear, okay? Okay, is EU 31,000, is it a high number, DV 2024? It's not a low number, put it like that. It's fairly high. We'll know more about numbers in January. It's probably, my estimation for EU is that we're probably around about 69,000 is the highest number. So it's probably not too bad. But there was a 25% increase in selectees for EU, and we didn't need all of the selectees for last year. So, it's a bit risky for that reason. Can I travel outside of the US while waiting for the green card using the I-155 stamp and enter again? No difficulties. Blah, blah. Right. So basically, you're asking, do you have to wait for the plastic green card when you've entered the US for the first time? No, you don't have to wait for that. When you get your visa through the DV lottery, you get an immigrant visa in your green card, which is what you're referring to with the wrong number there. It's the 551. So there's a visa stamped into your passport. When you go through, they stamp that visa with a stamp to say you've been admitted and you're now a lawful permanent resident. And it says on that visa that it says upon endorsement serves as evidence of lawful permanent resident status, something like that. Can't remember exactly what it says. But basically that visa, on the day they stamp it, is then your backup supporting evidence to show your status. And that's good for 1 year from that original entry. Okay, and during that 1 year, you're expected to get your plastic green card, which would then mean you would use your green card, right? But you don't need to wait for the plastic green card in order to leave the country. You can leave the country 5 minutes later. In fact, Clef's, one of the amazing helpers on Telegram that answers tons of questions, he drove in from Canada, drove in, activated his green card, drove back out again. So he was in the States for maybe 10 minutes. So you literally can get out on the next plane if you want. You can drive out. There's no minimum stay that you have to stay there. My case is an AP. I'm Iranian. Do you know from experience how long it will take? I've never served in the military. You're already on AP. So, Mohammed, can you just confirm that you're a DV 2024 case? You've had your interview in literally the last 10 days. Or were you actually a DV 2023 case and you were on AP and you're still waiting? Because if it's the latter, if you're a DV 2023 case, then your case is over with. You're done. You can't get a visa. All the visas were issued. The fiscal year has ended. There's no way you can get a visa if you're a DV 2023. If you're a DV 2024 and you're an Iranian male, you never served in the military, not even born in Iran. What do you mean you're not even? Okay, hang on. You say you're not even born in Iran. Why did you charge to Iran? Why on earth would you charge to Iran if you weren't born in Iran? You need to answer some questions, Mohammed, because you're confusing me. Iranians, and most people would only say they're Iranian if they were born there. Iranians tend to suffer long periods of administrative processing after the interview, and it can last 4 or 5 months quite easily. But I don't understand why you're claiming to be Iranian if you weren't even born there. The only possible reason you would have done that is if you were married to an Iranian and you were from some other country and you chose to charge to that to Iran through your spouse or through your parents. But that would only apply if you were born somewhere that was ineligible. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to try and claim to be an Iranian if you're not, because that makes life more difficult for yourself, frankly. So let me know what you did. Sexiest lad in that Riverland. Welcome back. Thank you. I love your name. AF region DV 2024 from Somalia. There is an error on my first entry, which is chargeability country. I'm from Somalia and mistakenly chargeability for Kenya. My 1NL is Kenya. Okay, so the rule on chargeability mistakes, when you say you're from country A, but actually you're from country B, if country A and country B are both in the same region, then in general, those mistakes can be forgiven. They can ignore that. If country A and country B are in two separate regions, there is no possible way they can forgive the error. And so unless you've used one of the two exceptions to charge that way, to charge to a different country, which is through marriage or through parentage, unless you've used one of those two exceptions, then you definitely can't fix the situation. With you in Somalia, you're Africa. The only question I would have is whether Kenya is limited in the draw. I can't remember off the top of my head whether it is. I'd have to check the numbers. But if a country is limited during the draw, then and your own country is not limited, then that can mean that you gained an unfair advantage. And that can mean disqualification even within the same region. But it takes a pretty switched on consular officer to actually understand that, to know that. And they also have to be fairly harsh, frankly, because they have the ability to forgive this mistake as long as you didn't gain an advantage. So if they know that you gained an advantage and they're in a bad mood, they can certainly disqualify you. But I would hope they wouldn't, in some cases at least. When I go to the embassy, do I tell them or keep quiet? I've had a conversation with someone today about this guy kept asking in different ways, can he lie? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't be lying. You don't lie in this process, right? You don't try and cover things up. You don't try and pretend things are different than they are. There's a difference, though, between you blurting out all the information in the interview that you haven't been asked, and answer the questions that you're asked honestly, right? But don't answer the questions that you aren't asked. Okay, so if the consular officer asks you about, well, why does your birth certificate say you're from Somalia when you've actually said you're from Kenya? Then answer honestly that you made a mistake during the process and you understand it shouldn't affect your process, right? Answer that honestly. Don't try and hide anything, for goodness sake. Don't lie. Don't continue a lie, okay? Be honest. But you don't go in there and you say, good day, I've made a terrible mistake. I said I was from Kenya and I'm really from Somalia. You haven't been asked anything yet. So shut the hell up until you're asked something, and then answer the question that you're asked, and only that, right? Just simply and clearly and honestly, you answer the questions that you're asked, okay? You don't need to give the consular officer reason to get to other parts of things that you might be concerned about, okay? Introverted content creator. What do you think about the bulletin progression so far? I wondered if someone was going to ask about this. I'm not thrilled with what they did on the third visa bulletin of the year. They only increased Africa by 1,000 or so. They had very small increases in other regions. It's not very fast progress. I'm not quite sure why they're doing that. December is kind of a quiet month, but it'll be interesting to see how much progress they're making for the first quarter of the year compared to the second quarter. I should actually have done. Have I got no sound here? No. Somebody said no sound, but I think I'm okay. Yeah. So yeah. So the what I want to do is do an analysis of how many cases were scheduled, and let me just show you what I mean by this. Let's open up a window. I'll show you this briefly. Now, we're not going to have the SEAC data until, let's put that up there. We'll go like this. Okay, so this will be the SEAC data. We won't have access to the DV 2024 SEAC data until January 1st of next year, right? But what we can do is we can look at the data that we had from a previous year. And let me just change here so we can change the slide bar. Right. So we can go right back to the beginning file to see how many cases had been scheduled, etc., in the first 3 months of last year. So I've switched the date to the 1st of January of 2023 to have a look at how the data stood at the beginning of 2023, right? And the first extract we got showed that they had scheduled 17,000 people, 9,200 cases in 3 months. So roughly 3,000 cases per month, right? That sounds like a lot more than we will have revealed from the numbers that we've got so far. So that's why I'm a little disappointed with it. But I could be wrong. There could be more people in that. There could be more density in that early range than I had understood. And maybe they're doing just fine. But we won't really know anything until January 1st. So there's no point freaking out about something. We just have to wait and see what what information we get later. Okay. Right. Abdi from Somalia, long to now in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minneapolis, you're going to freeze your ass off. So you get a good coat quick because it must be getting cold there already. It's October. But congratulations and welcome and best of luck to you. Hope it works out well for you. But let me know if you want to come to California because Minneapolis. For 25 entry, can I enter eligibility country Somalia, which is country of nationality, and origin instead of UAE, which is country of birth, because I have a better chance in Somalia? Yeah, you would change your chance from 100% to 0%. So no, for God's sake, don't do that. You would be exactly doing what what I suggested you shouldn't do. And why you think Somalia has a better chance of selection is beyond me. Because it's actually the opposite. There are less people selected from UAE, yes, but your chance of selection is better from the UAE. So, and if you go across regions and you have no good reason to do that, then you're screwing yourself over. So stick with the UAE and make it easy, okay? Mohammed, don't screw it up. Does using an image manipulation tool or changing image background affect one selection? Great question. I'm glad you asked about this because people have questioned why I've suggested using some tools to change the background. If you look at the instructions, I bet I'm not going to find it. DV lottery instructions. Look this up a second. If you look at the instructions, there's a place where it talks about the photo requirements, and you get to a place where it's talking about the what you can and can't do, whether you can edit a photo or not, right? And there is a particular area which I'd like to try and find here. Right, let me see if I get to it this way. Photo examples. Yes, this will work. Okay, good. Digital alterations and retouching. Right, now, so the people that don't know how to read are worried about what I'm about to tell you, right? It's because they don't know how to read. They don't understand English well enough, perhaps. I don't know. But what they have done is they have read on here. So what I've just done is I've come to the official instructions, the DV lottery instructions, and I went to this page, which is giving photo examples. And in there are a number of tips and a slightly more expanded list than in the photo tool. I'll show you the photo tool list in a minute. It's a little bit different. And in here, it tells you, can you wear glasses and that sort of thing, right? So glasses, for some years now, you've not been able to wear glasses. It tells you about the size and position. It gives you a green check mark just to show when it's right. And it shows you when, when not, when you haven't done it right. This one is obviously too small, too far to one side. This one is a head only, no shoulders. That's the head position is too big. And so you can go through these examples and you can actually see, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. And then on the digital alterations and retouching, it says unacceptable. Background is cropped out using a photo retouching tool, comma, altering the outline of the head, comma, face and neck. So people go in here and they've heard me saying you can alter the photo to change the background to get this to a white or an off-white background. And then they come in and they say, oh, but this says you're not allowed to do that. It says the background is cropped out using a photo retouching tool. That's not allowed. And what they've done is, the mistake they've made is they haven't looked at the comma. The comma is important. So what it's saying is that because the background was cropped out using a photo retouching tool, that caused an altering of the outline of the head. And that's the problem, is an alteration of the image of the man in this photo that's the problem, not the background retouching. And if we zoom in a little bit, let me zoom in on this. We can see here what's happened is, look at his head. Because someone has clumsily come in here and edited this, there are sort of little angles in his head and his neck has been chopped out. And it's obvious that the photo has been altered in a way, and I had a comma in there, in a way that changes the appearance of the person. That person might have more hair, but it's been cut off, right? That person may not have this shaped neck, might have a thicker neck or whatever. This has clearly altered the appearance of the person. So it's not a problem to change the background, but you've got to do it in a way that doesn't alter the appearance of the person in any way. You mustn't lose any features. You mustn't edit any features on the face or anything like that, of course. But you mustn't lose hair. You mustn't change the appearance of the person in any way. Okay? So they tell you the photo tip is to take your photo in front of a white or off-white background instead of cropping out the background. I agree with that statement. That's the tip. But it doesn't mean that you can't edit the photo if it's done in a professional standard way. Okay, so the best way is to take a photo against a white background. 100% agree with that. Next best thing, if you have to, you can use a professional photo editing tool or a professional service that does a good job. And in the video that I created, you'll see that I've shown you which tools will actually do a good job and not cause disqualification because of an alteration of your appearance. Okay, but please do understand you have to read the English properly to really understand this point. Okay, can somebody enter the lottery if they had overstayed their visa in the past? Yes, they can. Anyone can enter the lottery, right? So you can enter. By entering, you may or may not win. Your chance of selection in most regions is less than 1 in 100 years. So by all means enter. And if you're selected, we can then worry about whether you can, what was the nature of your of your overstay. If it's a very small, short overstay, then you don't pick up an automatic ban. If you had a ban, then maybe it's not a very long ban. Okay, we can talk about that. But there's no point in talking about that now, about whether you can enter the lottery or not, and until we actually find out whether you win or not. Okay, so go ahead and enter the lottery and see if you win. Okay. If you made a mistake in your date of birth during the entries and you win. Okay, so if you've made a single mistake, or perhaps one or two mistakes in your entry, perhaps your birthday was January the 5th and you put by mistake, you put January the 6th or something, right? It's a very simple, small, innocuous mistake. Maybe you've made a single letter change in your name, or maybe there's a small error in your address or something like that. For very, very small errors, for one or maybe two small errors, they won't be too concerned. You can change those things if you're selected. You can change those things in the DS260. You can change your date of birth. You can change your name a little bit. But if you've made like several mistakes, which collectively appear to be sort of trying to hide the fact that you're doing multiple entries or something like that, if there's a concern about fraud, then they will disqualify you, okay, at the interview, which means you've spent your money, you've lost money on the interview fees. But if you have made a simple mistake, you correct it in your DS260, that can be fine, okay? If you've made multiple mistakes, that's a bit more risky than one mistake, right? And frankly, if you've made if you've answered 15 questions and you've made a mistake in your name and your date of birth and your address and forget it. If you can't handle answering 15 questions without making a mistake, then you are not prepared, frankly, to be able to move to another country and start a new life there, particularly in America, because you apparently can't even fill in a form. So, so don't bother, right? Is what I would say, and they would be right to keep you out. Okay, but if you've made one little mistake, okay, I can understand that. I'll forgive that. Okay. Completion of my question. What Mohammed is completing a question. What paperwork would I apply for leaving? Oh, no paperwork. You just leave. That was the question about how quickly you can leave. Have you considered joining TikTok? Most people are there and believe the audience would appreciate if you consider. I have got a TikTok account. I've got one video. You'll never see me dancing on TikTok, and you'll never see me with my top off on TikTok. Thank goodness. I'm not really that good looking. There are some YouTubers out there that are much more handsome or much prettier than me. There's some very pretty YouTubers out there talking absolute nonsense about DV lottery, but they're beautiful people. So, they're getting an audience. I'm ugly, old, grey, fat, So, but I tell the truth and I tell accurate information. So some people like that. But yeah, you might see me doing more TikToks because I every night I go out and play with my dog and I look at TikTok. So, maybe I should build up my TikTok audience just for you, Max. So make sure you go find me. I think I'll probably set up my account as Brit Simon. I can't remember. What did I do? Let's see. You see, I can go straight to my phone just to prove it. And I don't know how I work this damn thing, but let's see. Profile. There you go. There's the camera. Oh, there. You see, I've got one video, and my name is @BritSimon. And someone just started following me right there and then. Okay, so I've got 66 followers right now. Who wants to follow me on TikTok? Get your TikToks out and follow me, and I'll make a video for you. All right. So yeah, let's see how that goes during this video. Let's see how many people really do use TikTok. So it's @BritSimon is the account you're looking for. So there you go, Max. That's a challenge for you. All right. Hello. If you could make a prediction, what do you think about EU 30,000? Somebody asked earlier about EU 31,000. I said it was slightly risky. But we'll know more in January. I don't think it's very risky, actually, to be honest. It's less than halfway through the number ranges. But what we don't know for EU, Africa, and Asia is what's the distribution of case numbers before and after that case number, 30,000. So even if you were exactly, precisely halfway through the case number range at 30,000, let's say it went to 60,000, although I think it's actually 69,000 in the EU, but let's say you were precisely halfway through the range, there would be more than half the cases in front of you in EU, because there are higher density of cases in the lower number ranges. In EU, Africa, and Asia, it works like that. Okay, so we have to wait until January 1st to know anything more. Just curious, since you lived in both places, if you can make a video comparing life in the UK to the US, says Doozy John. I get this question reasonably often. The reason we live here is for the weather, right? I had a very good life in the UK. I still have a very nice house there. My wife had a very responsible job for a bank in the center of London. I was consulting, so I was flying around the world doing amazing opportunity work. I worked in Europe, I worked in America, I was commuting everywhere, worked in London and other places in the UK and Europe. So I had a great life in the UK. I've actually made more money in America, not through Brit Simon, obviously. Don't make any money on Brit Simon, but through my job and through my work. My career possibilities are bigger here in the USA than they are in the UK. But I was very comfortable in the UK. So, and it was nice to be able to travel to other countries in the UK. You know, you could just jump on a plane, go over to Spain, go over to France or whatever, just for the weekend. That was great. I love that. But the USA is just a bit bigger, more opportunity, more of a win-win scenario with business. In the UK, I found in the UK, and not everyone will feel this way, but if I was to win in some sort of deal, that means the person I'm dealing with has to lose. It was a win-lose situation. In the USA, it's win-win more often than not. I don't have to ruin your life in order to do a deal with you. You can win and I can win. There's enough for everybody. There's enough opportunity for everybody. And I also found that being from the UK, I can run circles around Americans just from an education or intelligence point of view. It's just very easy to be in America, and they like the English accent and they like other accents. Americans find us interesting, and particularly with the British accent, you sound more intelligent than you actually are at times, and that helps me. So in summary, better weather in the USA, more opportunity in the USA, terrible healthcare system in the USA, terrible gun situation in the USA, terrible political situation in the USA. It's stupid politics. Very expensive to live in some parts of the USA, right? But on balance, the USA is, for me at least, a better place to live. Okay. So, you know, maybe I'll do a little bit more of a detailed video on that sometime. Because like I said, I've worked in not just lived and worked in other places, not just in the UK. So I've just gained some followers on TikTok. There you go. So far, what's the highest case number you've come across specifically for Egypt? I haven't been tracking the countries yet, so I don't have one. You're more likely if you work with some other people like Onda, Sahir. You could check his channel. He's probably got a better idea about European case numbers. Sorry, European Cairo or Egypt case numbers than I have. Okay. Is there any chance of case number 84K from Africa in DV 2024? Africa is going to be like this. Africa is probably going to experience some problems with the embassies. And if the problems that they experience are as bad as in DV 2023, then we could see the case numbers go very high, above 100,000, right? We shouldn't see that, because what we should see is embassies behaving properly and scheduling cases, keeping up with the number of cases they've got. But if you have 3 or 4 embassies in the Africa region who say who limit the number of interviews they take, and they effectively ruin the chance for 5,000 people at this embassy and 6,000 people at this embassy and 7,000 people at that embassy, etc., then thousands of people have had their chances ruined by just a small number of embassies in Africa. You think that can't happen? Well, that did happen in DV 2023 and DV 2022. That's exactly what happened, right? And because those embassies ruin the chance of local people like Nairobi or like Ghana, because that happens, it gives high case numbers in other countries in Africa a chance, okay? And the visa bulletin will go higher than it should normally do, okay? Now, there are 55,000 people selected in Africa, so we shouldn't go current in Africa. That's just the reality. The highest case numbers should lose out. But the highest case numbers will have a chance if some embassies behave badly, as they did in DV 2023. So that's basically the conversation. It's not really so much about the case number in Africa, it's about embassy behavior. That same thing can't be said in Asia or Europe, because unless we see something really bizarre going on, there isn't enough embassy problems in Europe or Asia to mess up the region, to cause it to be, very weird. Iran has a problem, obviously, but there are 3 embassies that cover Iranians. Okay, so Iran has a chance, and Kathmandu obviously does very well for Nepalese, and between Iran and Nepal, that's the major story in Asia. And in Europe, there's pretty good portability and mobility of people, so people can get around to other embassies. Even if one embassy is bad, they can fairly easily get to another embassy. So it's not really a problem in Europe. So it's really Africa is where the damage is being done or has been done in the past by embassies. And that's basically what your chance depends on. And having said all of that, your number isn't too bad. Okay, so you've got a chance. If you made a mistake in your date of birth and you win, I think we already answered that. What's the largest number in Asia? Largest number I've heard in Asia is 54,000. When will the visa bulletin 69K AF arrive? 2:30. 2:30. Oh dear, it's time to go to the dentist. But no, I don't know when that's going to happen precisely. We'll have a better idea in January, but you're going to have to be patient. It's not going to be for a while, obviously, right? I wear Manchester United jersey on my DV photo, but I was told it's not good because it's regarded as a uniform. Yeah, that's not a great idea. You're not supposed to wear a Man United jersey or any uniform, as you correctly worked out. I guess the question will be how much of the uniform can they see? If it's just head and shoulders, right? It's just up to here kind of thing. They won't see very much of the uniform. Maybe they'll just see it as a colourful T-shirt with some stripes on it or whatever. And Man United, really? Come on, Jerry. There are better teams than that. Brit Simon, I won DV 2023. It's because of your advice made it to the USA. Another wonderful message. I love that. So congratulations. Slack. Okay. So I did not take A-level, Simon, but I took a diploma in travel and tourism. That diploma won't help you. That is vocational. And that's not equivalent to A-levels, and it probably wasn't a 2-year diploma anyway. If it's something like the HND or whatever else, HND can be considered general education, but yeah, you took a diploma in travel and tourism. That is vocational, so that's not going to help you. I guess that does not count, says you. Work-wise, been self-employed in retail and food, so I guess that does not count either. It can do. So you can be self-employed in retail and food, but if you're a chef, for example, and you're not managing staff, then that doesn't count. If you're managing staff, perhaps you're managing restaurants, perhaps you're managing a number of different people at a restaurant, then those sort of positions, managerial positions in retail and in food can qualify you. So you need to check ONET online for whatever your job is. You go to ONET online and figure out whether your job would qualify you or not. I guess the first thing is just Google Brit Simon work experience, and look at the article I wrote about that shows you how to check your work experience against ONET online. Okay, so good luck with that, Slack. I hope that works out for you. Case number is AF15K. When can I be current? You can be current next month, perhaps. We'll see. We've arrived in the States safely, Manchester, Connecticut. Awesome. You have to learn how to spell Connecticut. Thank you very much for your help. We'll visit you very soon. That would be awesome, Kingsford. Congratulations, anyway. That's really awesome. Okay, Mohammed, who spoke earlier. Iranian by citizenship. You're not Iranian then. As far as this process is concerned, citizenship has got nothing to do with this process. So anyway, you were born in UAE and charged to UAE. Okay, but I'm an Iranian because I've only held Iranian passports my whole life. Yeah, again. So I'm British. I was born in Britain. I now hold a British passport and an American passport. But when someone asks me what I am, I either would say I'm British American or I'm British. You were born in UAE. I know things are a little bit different in UAE, but it's weird that you call yourself Iranian. And actually, it's not helpful in this process to call yourself Iranian. You're better off actually declaring yourself as UAE. As an Iranian citizen, you may have some of the complications with administrative processing. You may not, though. But it would be much more helpful to describe yourself as someone born in the UAE than keep referring to yourself as Iranian. Okay. Hello. Just this process, by the way, Mohammed. I mean, do whatever you want, for other things, but for this process, don't stress your Iranian connection, right? Hello. What happens to one who was initially assigned to Nairobi, transfers to Dar es Salaam, okay, by editing DS260 and changes their mind later and edits their DS260 back to original post where they interview. Some people have done this before. The way to get transferred from one embassy to another by KCC before they've scheduled you is to change your address. Okay, if you email KCC and say, I'm not happy in Nairobi, I want to be transferred to some other place, that's not going to go down well because KCC will see you as just embassy shopping. Okay, but if on the other hand you say, I need to unlock my form, you change your address, now you're assigned to a different embassy in a different country because you changed your address because you moved, right? To another country. Then you might move back, as has happened in your case, let's say. And that means that once you've been scheduled for Dar es Salaam, you may move back to Nairobi. And Nairobi could accept your case, but you do that with the embassies, not with KCC. Okay, so you'll wait until you've been scheduled. And that trick has worked for some people, and it might work for you. You have to wait and see what happens. Okay. Pray God help me win again as a therapy for DV 2020 limbo. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Do you have any previous videos where you teach us how to calculate holes? Yeah, I've got an article. I've got several videos where I've talked about that. And it's not that I teach you how to calculate the holes. You'll see what the holes are in January. You don't need to calculate them. I calculate them because I'm interested in the analysis. But you don't need to do that. You'll see the holes in January. When we've got the full data, and you'll know exactly how many cases there are in front of you. Okay. So just wait, be patient. But if you really can't wait and be patient, you want to know more about holes, Google Brit Simon holes theory, and you'll get to an article and a couple of videos, I think, that explain the whole stuff a little bit more in a bit more detail. Remember, I've been doing this for 10 years, right? So I do know this stuff pretty well, and I've got 4 years worth of videos, I think, out there as well, and several years worth of 9 years worth of articles on my blog, BritSimonSays.com. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff out there that I've created in the past. Doozy, Canadian citizen with AS. Why have you got AS41K? You're a Canadian citizen. AS41K. I'm wondering whether to pursue efforts to move to the US or UK, fed up of living in Canada after the population explosion. I know a man who would agree with you about Canada. It's quite funny about the population explosion and what that's done to Canadians. It's interesting. It's a lesson perhaps for America to an extent. But anyway, your AS41K, so Asia 41K, that's quite a high case number. I'll tell you that now. So I guess what you're going to do is you're going to wait and see what happens with your case number, Doozy or John. You don't have a lot of option about that because your case number is pretty high. It may not even get current. Okay, so that might make up your mind for you about the USA opportunities. So wait and see what happens with that. You already live in Canada, so you know about crappy weather. You might find yourself more comfortable in the UK, and for things like the health system in the UK, it'll be more like Canada. And whilst people in Canada and the UK sometimes complain about the health system, believe me, it is 1,000 times better than the system in the USA. I pay hundreds of dollars every month for my health plan. My company pays $20,000 on top of a year, on top of I think probably $6,000 or $7,000 a year I pay for my health insurance to cover me, my wife, and my daughter. Right, so we're paying something like $26,000 a year, and then when we go see a doctor, I feel like I'm begging to get whatever medicine I need. I take an injection, developed an allergy about 3 or 4 years ago out of the blue for no particular reason. I have an injection once a month. That's $1,500 a month because of the stupid healthcare system over in America. $1,500 a month. Luckily, my insurance covers all of that. But because I have someone inject that for me, that costs me $50 or something every time I do that. My daughter needed a taxi ride, not a taxi ride, an ambulance ride. Cost $4,500. They billed me for $4,500 for the ambulance. Again, luckily, my insurance company covered most of that, but the insurance company is now hassling me for the last few $100s of that. For the insurance company should pay it, but the ambulance company are trying to collect that money from me when actually they should be collecting it at all. If at all, it should come from the insurance company. But there's a whole industry of just being a pain in the ass, to try and get more and more money out of people. And there are a lot of people who go bankrupt in the USA because of the healthcare industry. I took my wife one time for a dizzy spell. She got dizzy with vertigo. Went to the emergency room. This was fairly early in the time here, so we didn't quite know how to do this. Firstly, in the UK, I've had similar events with my wife and my daughter where they sent out an ambulance and a motorbike with a paramedic to my house within 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, I lived in a city environment or a town environment, suburb environment over there. So within 2 or 3 minutes, I had one paramedic at my house. Call 999 in the UK. Got one paramedic who came on a motorbike, and a couple of minutes after that, an ambulance arrived. And where I needed help to get my wife down the stairs or whatever, they just took care of that. Right? In America, I called to get some help, 911 or whatever it is. They won't send an ambulance unless I really, really need it. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And they say, well, we suggest you get your wife down the stairs. I lived in a 3-story house at that time. So I'm mid 50s or early 50s or something. So I have to get my wife down the stairs by myself. I have to get her to the emergency room. I drive her in my own car to an emergency room. She's feeling terrible, right? We go into the emergency room. We wait 3 or 4 hours, same as I would wait in the UK. Maybe, and there were other people who came in perhaps bleeding or whatever, and they're a bit more urgent. So you wait a little bit because you're not really an urgent case. So after 3 or 4 hours, she gets a Valium. They charged us $1,200 for the Valium. One Valium, $1,200. Because a pharmacist had to issue that, and I don't know, some bullshit. Anyway, that whole event cost $25,000. We were in the hospital maybe 3 or 4 hours after we were originally seen. We had a couple of tests done, 25 grand, right? Luckily, my insurance covered most of that. But in those days, because I was on a different health plan, the emergency room meant that I had to cover 10%. So we ended up spending $2,500, and the insurance cost paid for the rest of the $25,000. But $25,000, we weren't even there overnight, right? If you break your leg and you're in hospital for a couple of days in the USA, you can expect to see a bill for 100 grand, right? It's insane here. It's absolutely insane what people pay, and they think it's normal and they think it's the right thing. And then Republicans don't even want a more sensible system. We're spending about $10,000 or $11,000 per person in the USA for healthcare coverage. That's what it costs on average, about $10,000 or $11,000 per person. And not everyone is covered. So there are people, you'll see videos of dopey Americans who don't have insurance, who've got a big boil or something on their arm, and they're lancing their own boil at home in the middle of the forest where they live because they don't have insurance. Or they're pulling their own teeth out or some stupid stuff because they don't have insurance and they don't want to see a doctor. And there's people who have to decide whether, they get cancer and they have to decide whether to pay the medical bills or pay to keep the roof over their family's head. Do they live? Do they fight and get all the medical help they can get and try and fight the cancer? Or do they just die so that their family can continue to live in the house? Why would any civilized society think that's an okay decision process? It's completely nuts. So yeah, USA, one of the worst things. I mean, I'm okay. I've got plenty of money. I've got very good health insurance, but there is a lot of people who don't have the sort of money I've got or the sort of health insurance I've got. And so, those people are not in good shape here in the USA. It's one of the things that drives me nuts. And don't even get me started with the gun situation. So, anyway, rant over. All right, a few more questions. Now I've taken 10 minutes on that. How safe is the Moroccan AF-34K in Paris embassy? I don't know how they do. So you're probably very safe because it's a pretty good number. Paris is a very good embassy, and Morocco has done very well in the past as well. So you'll be okay. Question, please. PD5 November 21. No idea what that means. What level of education in the DV application responds to higher national diploma HND under the education question? An HND in the UK, to my knowledge, is a general education, and typically the HND has different levels, like level 3, level 4, level 5. I can't remember what I did, but I did an engineering thing that way. So an HND, higher national diploma, I think is equivalent to at least A levels, and then you could go into university with that. And it was general education, so I think that's okay. But you'll have to check. So, did you finish your HND around about age 18? Is that roughly? And could you enter a university with that education, or is it even higher than that? Right. That's basically the questions you need to answer. PD. Okay. So I only answer DV lottery. The PD you're talking about is priority days. that means you're not a DV lottery question. Yeah, and I don't answer those sort of questions. Can you play for me and my family? I'll send you all the information. No, I don't do, by the way, I don't answer any questions by one-on-one questions. I don't charge anybody any money. I don't do this as a job. This is just something I do as a hobby. After my work hours, I work my job, and then I do this sometimes. So no, I'm not going to apply for anyone. There are other people that might help you with that, but really you don't need to. You just need, it's a very simple application process. You can do it yourself. I don't recommend a particular photo studio in Kenya. I would suggest just finding someone who can produce a US photo. There are some other YouTubers, including a couple of Adobe ones, who may be able to help you out choosing someone. But I don't know people in Kenya particularly. Thank you for the efforts. Because of your advice, this journey is becoming smoother. I'm freaking out because selecting number in DV 2024, AS 19,000. AS 19,000 is not very high. You don't need to worry really with that. I mean, we'll know more in January, but honestly, I don't think that's going to be very high. DV 2024, I do have a 12-year school certificate where I managed to pass all the grades, but I did not do the official national exams that allow me to enter domestic universities. So without knowing your country's education system, I don't know if that's a problem or not. So you'll forgive me, I can't tell you whether that's enough or not. So I'm sorry. I suggest you find other people in your country that are used to your education system and are DV lottery winners, and perhaps they can tell you a little bit more. Should I apply for DV even with no high school, but future university student? Look, you can always apply for the DV lottery, and if you get selected, you can then think about whether you can qualify for it or not, okay? If I have a different type of immigrant visa process going on, employment-based or family petition, can I take part in the lottery? What will happen if I win? You're fully entitled to have two application processes concurrently going at the same time, right? So you can be doing family-based or employment-based application in one route, and you can apply for DV lottery. There's no problem with that. There's no connection between the two. One won't make the other one harder or anything else. You can do that. Okay. You followed me on TikTok. Great. Just followed you on TikTok. Okay, I'll produce a video. I'll produce something for that. Complete my question about overstayed visa has a 10-year ban. You have a 10-year ban. Jeez, so you just decided to ignore the rules entirely. You overstayed for a long period of time and you got a 10-year ban. So think of it this way. The DV lottery is a privilege. There's no rights involved here. So you're asking the country to give you the privilege of a lottery win when you haven't even finished your 10-year ban because you completely disrespected the immigration policies of this country. What do you think they're going to do? They're probably not going to be very friendly towards you, right? So, well, I don't think that's going to work out too well for you, put it like that. You can't disrespect the system one moment and then expect to benefit from it the next, Can I apply with an open university degree in the UK, but no high school certificate, but a diploma? You might be able to. You could try that, Gemma. Open OU degree is pretty well understood and accepted. So when you go to a London University, London MC, they will know what that is, and they may accept that. Okay, it's not a guarantee because it's not a formal course of education, but they may accept it. It's worth a try. What was the highest case number in Africa that got interviewed in 2023? 63,500. I think 63,502. It got current. That was the highest actual number. I don't know whether they're interviewed. I can't remember. I haven't checked the file, but yeah, 63,500 probably, something around that. Is there any recommendation for someone to play the DV for me in the USA? I live in the USA. You can enter. You don't need someone to do this for you. You can enter the lottery from anywhere, right? You just have to obviously answer all the questions correctly and put your country of birth correctly. Okay, that's all. So you can do it. Can you use the cut numbers of last year and how many visas issued in total per region to guesstimate the cutoff numbers? So don't try and compare one year to another, right? So, for example, in Africa, there's a 12% increase in selectees, but the case numbers have almost doubled, right? So you can't take a number from last year and try and compare it to this year. It's not going to work like that. Wait until January and we'll have a better idea, okay? I won the lottery against this year, it's 24. My case number is within 8K. I'm from Ghana. When do you think I would receive my appointment date, or should I be worried? Well, I don't know how Ghana is behaving this year. They behaved badly in the last couple of years where they were taking only 30 people per month for interviews, 30 cases per month, 25 actually in a couple of months. So hopefully you do 60 fast. Hopefully it's been processed, right? You can email KCC and see if it's been processed. And hopefully, therefore, you can get interviewed in the first few months of the year. Fingers crossed for you. Okay. AF18K, any ideas when current? Could be next month. We don't know exactly, but it could be. DV lottery case number with a complete 164. You normally put AF64XXX. You don't have to give me the precise number, but it doesn't really matter. What about my situation? Will I be called for interview? Maybe. It's not a bad number. We'll know more in January. Seeing you live is favorite part of my TV 2023, and still I get excited when I see the notifications. That's a lovely thing to say. So thanks indeed. Obviously, I'm assuming you're in America now, so best of luck to you. What about DV large number? What about 26,000? Will it take chances? Okay, so an angel just died because you gave me your case number without telling me the region. So sorry, you killed an angel. If you believe in this one is the one I'm talking about here. So say you won or something. You killed an angel. I see you're a little tan since previous video. Yes, I am. Thanks for sharing all of your experience, Fausto. Says I could help a lot of people sharing what I learned here, and I tell them to follow you best. Yeah, Fausto, thank you. I know you spent a long time checking in, so I'd love to hear from you on how things are going. So yeah, please do let us know. How are you, my favorite Simon? I'm a winner 2024 A case number less than 3,000. Wow. But I have a refugee paper. How can I fill the DS260? Would you explain to me? So if you're a refugee and you're in the USA, I assume you're in the USA, then you may well want to process via adjustment of status. And in that case, I recommend you go to forums. What is it? Forums.immigration.com. Sign up for an account there and go to the lottery visas section. And there is a particular person called someone's mum who is the absolute expert in the world, as far as I'm concerned, about DV related adjustment of status. And so go listen to her. She is the absolute guru on all of this stuff, right, with regard to adjustment of status and DV lottery. Okay. I'm DV24 and I marry now. My case AS 15900. I marry now. Are you saying can you get married now? You can marry during this process if you are if you're in a relationship. What you shouldn't do is just marry someone because you won the lottery. That would be fraudulent, right? But if you are dating someone, you have been for a couple of years and you're in love and all of that stuff, and then you win the lottery, when you think of that process, you think, well, I don't want to go to America by myself. I want to go with my love, right? The love of my life, right? Let's be romantic about this. So it would be very normal to get married and for you both to go together, right? the COs understand that, but what they are not going to agree with is if you've married someone's, a friend's sister or something, because you're just trying to give that person a green card. That's fraudulent. You mustn't do that. But if it's a real relationship, yeah, you would normally get married and you would go together. Okay. Do you think UK entrants stand a good chance in next year's draw? The chance of being selected is the same in every country within a region. So you've got the same chance of someone from France or from Germany or Italy, all right? And the number of people that will be selected from the UK really depends on how many people enter. I don't know if many people are entering from the UK. I hope so. I'd like to see a few Brits go through. That would be nice. Okay, couple more questions, then we'll call it a day. Firstly, thanks very much for your help. Case number EU 10,000, that's good. Consonant is accurate. Hopefully that's good. Ankara accepts Iranian people's case first. Do you have any idea why? What about the 5K quota gossips? Okay, so Ankara tends to prioritize. Some people don't believe me or agree with me about this, but I believe Ankara tends to prioritize Iranians in the early months because those people need more time to process their cases. So it seems to me, and I don't have precise sort of proof of this, but it seems to me that Ankara and a couple of the other embassies prioritize Iranians early and then switch to their own local cases. Because those Iranians, frankly, need the help early on, because they're going to be facing 4 or 5 months of administrative processing after their interview, right? And so, yeah, that does happen, I believe, and I think it's fair and right that happens. And a couple of people in Ankara, their heads have just exploded because I said something against people from that area, but but there it is. Please, what time did you apply? First week or the second? So, and you're asking, Samir, the time of application makes no difference to your chance of selection, right? It's a completely random process. It doesn't matter whether you apply in the first week, the second week, the last week, on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. It doesn't make any difference, right? It's a random lottery draw. Okay. We're from Cuba. My husband won DV 2024. We're a couple without children. Case number SA 3000. It's a high number. It's slightly high, but you might have a chance. I think the highest case number I've heard for SA is 5,000. Okay. So good luck. 3,000. Yeah. Glow with Zara says 3,000 is a pretty good number. I tend to agree. It's not a bad number, but you won't get current until probably June, July, August of next year, something like that. Case number is 2024 13K. You said it's not as high a number, but could you elaborate more on that, please? AS 13K. So to elaborate more on that, wait until January. That's what I would elaborate. You'll know more about it in January. Love you from DV 2023 Nepal for your incredible helps. My wife and child plan to immigrant in Texas. I think you mean Texas, not taxes. It's 27th. You're amazing, bro. Good luck. Texas is a great state. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. There's some pretty awful places in Texas too. So be careful where you go. Let's deal with an Aussie. So, hi from Melbourne, Australia. OC 600. That's good. Waiting to be current. We'll get an I-134 from my in-laws. Just want to say thanks for the guidance. So, first of all, great number. A lot of people in Australia and OC region with impossibly high numbers, which is kind of sad. But your number's fine. The I-134, you probably won't be asked for it in Sydney. It's rare they ask anyone, pretty rare. But prepare for it anyway, because you can get it from your in-laws. That's awesome. Just prepare yourself well, right? And you've got a great chance of being approved there in Australia. Okay, in Sydney. They won't interview in Melbourne, by the way, obviously, but it's all going to be in Sydney. Okay, let's see. God continue to bless you guys for helping us achieve. You're welcome. I hope God would bless an atheist like me too. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, last question here. Can WhatsApp photos be used? It says it's overly compressed. I watched a YouTuber trying to understand. She didn't understand what overly compressed meant. So basically, save the format without compressing the photo. So JPEGs are compressed. There's a compression to try and keep the file size small, right? So you can use the photo tool, but it doesn't want an overly compressed photo to start with. So basically, save it in a different format or a different compression ratio, and then take that through the photo tool, the official photo tool, and you'll have a better result that way. Okay, so but that's so. And what happens is WhatsApp is compressing photos in order to send them from one place to another without too much of a kilobyte file size. And if it's compressed too much, that's why the photo tool is rejecting it. Okay. All right. Okay, one more question, because this is a nice question. It is a good clarification. My case is 100K. As you previously tell us that DV 2024 cases are doubled, is my case similar to 50K on DV 2023? Sort of. That's sort of correct. We'll know more in January. But yes, you could sort of make that relationship, right? Because in DV 2023, case numbers went up to 63,502, right? And that number went current, that last one, right? So that's similar to saying we think the highest case number in Africa in 24 is 122,000 and something, right? But it could be more than that. But if your number is 100K, yeah, it's probably somewhat similar to being 50K in DV 2023. Right, possibly. Well, we don't know 100% certainty yet, right? So we'll know more in January, and you're clearly not going to be current before January, so you have time to wait. Okay, so we'll see then whether you've got a good chance or not. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm thirsty. I need to go and get some water. We'll call this a day, and thank you for joining me. And I'll be producing a video over the next couple of days, which will handle some important topics for DV 2024, right? So please look out for that. And another one about the DV 2025 entry will be coming later in the week. So please make sure you're subscribed to my channel and that you've got the notifications turned on. And maybe you should be subscribing to my TikTok account to see me dance. I can see a few people have subscribed during this video, so thank you for that. I'll try and do better than the one video that I've got. All right, everybody. Thank you then. Bye-bye.